This is Black Country Blokes chewing the fat.
Listen.
I've been hearing a lot lately about men don't talk, but in my experience, men do talk, just people aren't listening. So it's going to be me and a group of blokes discussing our struggles and victories through life. Warning, there may be some bad language, so apologies to all the moms, especially my own. Let's get going.
Listen.
I've been, yeah. It's the Black Country Blokes chewing the fat about everything it is mental health, disability, and life in general. Here with me, Kev Dillon, and my partner in crime, as always, Lee Cadman. Now, you may recognise one of these guys. Dave's been on a fair few times now, either here on the podcast or on our radio show on Black Country Extra, and we're joined by his mate, Rob. So we're going to be talking about suicide prevention as well as many other things today. But as always, we start with our gratitude list. And we've just had Bank Holiday weekend. And it's great just being with me, my wife, my daughter. We went to a bouncy thing at a DK Rugby Club the other day. So it was great being outdoors and getting my daughter some exercise and making friends. Easter was lovely, just having nothing to do. And I think sometimes in life we feel like we've got to do something massive. But sometimes the smallest things with the people you love the most are the best things. So I'm just grateful to have people in my life. What are you grateful for, brother?
Well, I've just had just over a week off. So yeah, it's pretty much the same as you. Got time to spend with the family, and I took my bike for a MOT today, and it passed, which I'm always grateful for. So no extra expense, and it means I can get out on it for another year. So yeah, I'm grateful for those things.
Dave, what are you grateful for, bro?
Well, again, nice long weekend Easter, and spent a lot of time with the dogs and with my wife, and we've got a local dog training club, which is BAGS, which is British Association of German Shepherds, and it's like a family within itself, and it's all supportive, and it's really nice to be around those sort of people. And we're lucky Easter Sunday, lovely day for it, and so we had a good time. So yeah, just friends and family. Yeah.
And you, Rob, what are you grateful for?
Well, we got 3 young granddaughters and spent Easter with them with various things, as you just said, nothing fancy. Feeding ducks, for example. We've got a park just next to our cottage where we're going. And my wife and I very much value that. We're going through a lot of stressful family times, and just do uncomplicated things with our granddaughters is wonderful, really.
Sometimes when you got stress in your life, and I think those blokes go the wrong way, say we have to have a step back. It's not taking a step back, it's just pressing the pause button, isn't it?
Yeah.
And sometimes we can just press pause and just go, deep breath, exhale, now crack on with it.
Yeah.
And that's almost what I say to the lads downstairs at the boxing club. Just press pause, learning how to tread water. You know, sometimes I know I can get to the end, but if I try now, I'm going to drown. So let me just tread water, get my breath back, and then I'll continue when I'm ready.
I think that works as well. Two of the granddaughters are 6, and they see life in a very idealistic way, and they don't want life complicated. They don't want to hear about all the problems. They're just after what they're going to do in the next hour.
Yeah,
And I find that simplicity and that loveliness takes you away, gives you a pause button, I say. Yeah.
The beauty of children, that is, isn't it? They're not worrying about yesterday, they're not fretting about tomorrow, they're just hearing out, I'm a penguin. And, this stick is now a horsey, and now it's a javelin, and it's just, the adults complicate childhood.
Yeah.
We feel like every moment has got to be Alton Towers and McDonald's, whereas not only a kid, what a child wants is time.
Yeah.
And I heard this the other day, is that how much you can spend on your child? It's how much time you can spend with your child. And it's so true. Even if you sat there being quiet, sitting there on the carpet with each other, or having a munch, or having a cuddle, or whatever it is, it's the contact we desire. And I think, in all honesty, that's what grown-ups desire. But we spend so much time on devices and trying to occupy every moment instead of just feeling the settee on our bums and on our backs, or feeling the sunshine through the window, or even better, on your face in real life.
I agree. We live near to Robert Plant
Oh yeah,
And
Led Zeppelin.
He lives in a very humble manner.
Tell him to go on our show.
And I was talking to him once about, where do all these ideas like Kashmir and what have you come from? And he said, well, I was very lucky he came from back streets of Birmingham. But he said, I was very lucky. My parents took me to hills and told me how mysterious they were and mystique. So, they weren't taking him even to Dudley Zoo. They were just going to a hill. But all these years on, for all that he's seen of the world, Robert Plant looks back at how his parents showed him the mysteriousness of hills.
Well, I remember Dad going down the common with my nanny Joan, and we'd be there and we'd find a bird's feather, but it wasn't a feather, it was a native Indian's feather, and then you'd find some sticks, and that was the wigwams, and the beauty of just adventure and
the imagination.
Or being somewhere. And I remember my granddad Mike taking me in the pub, and there was little, in the woodworking pubs, and they'd be a hole and go, oh, but there's a squirrel that lives in that, and you'd swear blind you'd see the squirrel run past you, but that was the beauty.
How many beers you had, Kim?
I was only a kid then, so only 4. That's the, and we lose that by conforming to everything, don't we? And you must be quiet, and you must do this, and you must. And you're thinking, but the thing that separates us from other species on this planet is the imagination. And it's the imagination that's created the technology and created the vehicles and everything around us. That came from a single idea. But now we dull every idea by being fixated on something every moment instead of staring out the window. And I think how many movies and sonnets and songs aren't going to be invented by filling the boredom with something, just sitting there going, wow, look at that tree, bump, idea.
Have you ever told them about the book that you wrote, the Celtic?
The Celtic Holy Grail quest. I've written a few books, but I wrote a book, the Celtic Holy Grail quest, which is sort of like a magical quest, and is a quest for the origins of the Holy Grail, which is rooted in Celtic mythology, and it had all the Arthurian characters and everything. So I guess I've never grown up. No, I really am.
It's a wonderful book, but it's one of those books you've got to read twice because you get to the end and you go, you've actually managed to get to the end. I am impressed.
I'll tell you that.
I think imagination is so fantastic and so underrated. I say that about resilience. I say resilience is a superpower that we all possess, but we don't see it as a power. But the power of getting over yesterday. Yes. And sometimes we don't give ourselves credit for it, because if you sat someone down and went, over the next 12 months, you're going to go through cancer, abuse, the death of your loved ones, you go, I won't be able to survive it. But somehow we do. And no matter what life has thrown at us, we've overcome it. And how do I know we've overcome it? Because we're still here now. And we don't realise that at the time. We think, oh, well, I'm weak and I'm going, but you're stronger than you make out, because you are still here. And I think resilience and imagination.
Totally. I had a conversation with a friend yesterday, and it was about I've been diagnosed as bipolar, which is manic depression, in other words, as well as autistic. But the bipolarist said, how often do you get manic? And I said, I hadn't really thought about it before, but it's something as I've developed, I can actually turn on and off. So if something's getting really bad, I think, let's let this go. I'm just going to go manic for a bit. And I just go into my sort of childhood play thing. I know I'm sort of not in adult boundaries, but not doing anything dangerous. Right? So it's kind of letting go. It's like letting go that as adults we can't do.
Yeah, that suppression of stuff as well just
Yeah,
doesn't help no one, does it really?
It doesn't.
And I think there's a range of both, isn't
Yeah.
there? There's a range that you have to suppress some things sometimes,
Yeah.
but and there's also a range where if you are in manic, you don't want to go
over.
yeah, and
Yeah.
suppressing stuff too much tends to take you over the other way.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
right.
those safety plans we've been working on very much encompass managing bipolar
Yeah,
mania. As
Mm.
we've adopted one that is the formal one for the whole UK. Really, it was designed by the Royal College of Psychiatrists, and it's used, for example, in the wards in the local hospitals, and it's used all around the country. And David and I have put together training around that, and it's interesting because we've done the training. We tend to use it all the time because I think we added up once. We'd given the information to over 2,500 people. But we smile at that because our target is 2.5 million people. But
a few more, yeah.
a few more yet.
You've got to start somewhere, though, haven't you?
But it's right at the beginning is to spot what's happening and to have divertory strategies. And in David's case, because he's done the talkings for it, they tend to be going for a walk with the dogs, taking photographs, building sheds, and so on and so forth. And they're a good thing to have. And we know when we won't get the 2.5 million people in the Black Country to have it, but we have a serious aim for it to be in the hundreds of thousands. That the more people that use a safety plan, the less likely they are to become the other side of bipolar, which is depressed, which can lead to people taking their own lives.
So a safety plan, for anyone who hasn't seen the previous episodes, would you walk us through what a safety plan is, please?
Yeah, a safety plan. The way I always describe it, you said you got your bike past its MOT, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you have breakdown recovery for it?
I do, yes.
Safety plan is basically breakdown recovery for your brain. Yeah. So if your brain hits a crisis, kaboom. That's where you bring in the safety plan. Now, to me, I've noticed you got Harley Davidson jumper on. If it's a Harley Davidson, I am totally and utterly jealous. But my brain is still worth, to me, 1 million times more than the Harley Davidson. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's important to have that breakdown recovery for the brain. And what it does is things that you can do to get you through right now. You've got to pause. You've got to pause that thought process. You've got to interrupt it. It's just one pause, because that can literally save your life. And it's things that you can do to get you through right now. So literally think, what's on my safety plan? Step outside, get some fresh air. If you're lucky enough in this country, you might even get sunshine. I listen to music. That's always something that most people like doing, is listening to music. So listen to music. Or you could just watch TV. You can make yourself a hot drink. Have a chocolate bar stashed away that you haven't eaten. Funny, I'm saying this on Easter. I'm full of chocolate at the moment. But yeah, have that chocolate bar that you can just reach for, just to give you a little bit of lift.
And I think the key is as well, like having breakdown cover. It's no good having breakdown cover. It's no good buying your breakdown cover when you broke down. So
Yeah.
the safety plan, the idea is it's done before that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
mean,
there as a mechanism.
On that bit, what's very important is to have a list of people, friends, who you could contact. And of course, in a way, you contract people. So I've got several people in my village have contracted that I will be on their list to phone or pop round to the cottage if they don't feel too well. And, you know, just doing it, because obviously if you do it when you're depressed, oh, I don't know anybody, nobody can, you know, as you quite rightly say, you've got to do it when you're in a more upbeat mood. But you then let people know you're on my list, you know. And what our ambition is in our lifetime is to become more of a well-being plan than a safety plan. So at the moment, it is very much seen as something to stop people taking their own lives. But with a slight change in words and a slight change of doing it, it could be a well-being plan that becomes more and more common for everybody to do.
Yeah.
And we've tried that a few times, but you know, our main aim is to hit people who potentially are in crisis, as you just established there.
Yeah, but anyone can enter crisis. You don't know what's around the corner. You don't know what is going to happen in your life. So anyone can enter crisis. So that's why a safety plan or well-being plan, I really don't mind what we call it, it is so good, because if something happens that sends you into that crisis, you've got that information that will help you get through that crisis.
And other people have as well, haven't they? So,
and that's what I was just going to go on to. You know, you don't, it's not just for you, the safety plan. It's for the other people that you contacts. So heaven forbid I had Rob on it. I'd make sure Rob's got a copy of my safety plan so he knows what's on it. And
It's too far to drive.
yeah, too far to drive. Yeah.
But joking aside, I mean, what I've learned from the crisis teams is they're useless at best. So if you have got the team around you who knows your safety plan, to get you to the hospital, to sit with you until you see him, because
or not even that, it could be that because I know when I've been in a depression or the funk, it's as you were saying earlier, it's hard to see this. So it might just be that you realise I've got a problem and go, actually, Leon, your safety plan, let's go for a walk, Lee. You know what I mean? Because it's written in that plan. Whereas I'll probably, you can encourage me to do that. Whereas if it was just me reading that plan, I'd go, you know what? I'm in depression. I don't want to walk.
You know,
I don't want to.
That strikes a real chord that's come home to me the last 2 years, because I've got involved now in the national side of suicide prevention, so with some of the big charities and what have you. And in that, I therefore meet a lot of people who try to take their lives and fail. Not meant to use language like that, but that's what
it is.
That's what happened. And to a man and a woman, they say the same thing, and it's this: if only somebody had said, "What you got there? Are you okay?" Now, it could be that retrospectively that they're feeling that. I realise that. But the other element of all those people that say it to me, and these are people quite damaged, they've often damaged themselves in trying to take their lives, and they're damaged because they're in such a state. The other thing is, they say you're depressed, and somebody comes up to you and says, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" Actually, the weight goes off them. And the reason for it, they say, is that at last somebody realizes what is actually in their head.
I have been seen.
Seen beyond the mask.
Yeah, that's a very good phrase.
Yeah.
So it's I think that I personally think this bit we're talking about, which is the list of, they're going to be good friends. You're right. There are people who are going to say, "I'm not going to work today. I'm going to go and see Paul or John or David." They're that type of friend. They're not fair weather friends. And there's only ever going to be 2 or 3, isn't there, in all our lives? But in that, when I suffered from severe depression, my father, who's a very calm, organised, quiet man, took time off work. And I remember I was thinking when you were saying earlier, Kev, he said these really simple words. He said, take every day at a time. That's what he said. And that stuck with me. I mean, it's such a simple phrase, isn't it? And then I passed that on to other people. That, you know, oh, stop worrying about all this. Let's get through today. You know, and enjoy today if we can. So, and again, I remember at that time a severe depression, clinical depression. As people acknowledged how I felt, I can remember my weight, you know, coming off behind the mask is a very good phrase. I've not heard that before. It's a good phrase. Yeah.
But it's when we have to be, what's the word? We as loved ones have got to be there. If the system is failing us, it's the social network that'll get us through it. And I've had people up here who said, it wasn't a therapist, it wasn't the establishments that made me better. It was the love of the people out around me, who checked up on me, who were making sure I was still having my tablets, or taught me into having a depot, or even because a lot of places I am just the patient. I'm not a human being. I am this. I'm almost a nuisance. So when you've got people who love you and continue to love you just for the way you are, that's what we've got them through it. So we've got to be there for one another.
We've got to be there for one another. And for anyone.
As much as your next door neighbour might do your heading and he might be parking there, you will, his suicide will impact you. If you're thinking, it wasn't that bad. You know, he might have parked on my drive, but I wouldn't have wished this on him, because that's what suicide does. It leaves a void in people's souls, because it could have been avoided. And it was, if you had told me you were stressed about debt, if you told me you were anxious about the abuse, if you told me it would, there is the help there to get through the darkness. Unfortunately, when you are that poorly, you don't see that. But that's why we've got to be each other's beacons.
And then we're homing in again on the value of those good friends. But also what you're touching on there is I wrote a small book for our local trust. And the reason I wrote it was I found presenting ideas at board meetings, presenting ideas at suicide prevention meetings, it was fine, Rob, next item. Whereas it was too important to me for that. There's 100 people a year in, year out, for years going back in the Black Country, take their lives by suicide. And I find that appalling. And when I look at management who don't seem to find it appalling, you know, that's what prompted a book. So that, you know, instead of papers, PowerPoints, whatever, got a book, delivered it by hand to all the members of the board and the chair. Now, why am I going on about that? Because it's about zero suicide society. And a key thing that I've written in there, which you've just covered, is creating, you remember the streets around Netherton and Dudley of old, where we all knew each other's business and we all helped, and the community spirit. Well, believe it or not, I try and layer that into the book. I don't mention Netherton and Dudley, but I nonetheless talk about the value of us looking after each other. And I actually believe that can be achieved if you set out to do it. If you don't set out to do it, you won't achieve naturally. It's got to be an aim. And you combine it with things like something that Dave works hard in, which is the community hubs. And again, by developing the community hubs into larger, more infiltrated things, you get this society. And the conclusion I've come to, and it's based on what's happening in best practice around the world, is that to get this 100 down to 0, it's about society. It's not about little pinhole things.
Well, you said 100 in the Black Country. I was working out the other day. In the United Kingdom, I don't think it's United. I think it's just England and Wales. 4,308 people, men, take their lives. Men. And if you think suicide is the biggest killer of men under 40,
Yeah.
and if you think half the population is men, so the biggest killer in half the population is just being brushed under the carpet.
I know.
That's appalling, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is, and
yeah.
I promise not to be all about me. I'll just say one thing about that. There's a guy who I won't name, paid by the government, so it's about £200,000 a year or something like that. Gets all the statistics on all this, and I've said to him face to face, and almost being carted out the room for saying it, stop adding up the numbers. Focus on suicide prevention.
Yeah.
The latest government strategy doesn't even have a target in it. No target.
So they've got the numbers, but there's no target to combat those numbers.
Yeah.
It's not like we're going to reduce this by
No.
10% every year.
No, and that's what annoys me. That,
So the numbers are useless at that point.
yeah, and they go down. You know, this percentage is alcohol related, and this is that, and that is that. It's irrelevant because of the numbers. Because nationwide it's 6,500, isn't it, actually? And because of the numbers, they aggregate out that just go and do suicide prevention and you'll capture all of it.
Yeah.
And again, in this booklet, I say you won't find any stats in here except the 100 a year.
Yeah.
But in it, Paul, like, because what I hear so much is, well, it's because men don't talk. You're putting the blame on the victim.
Yes.
It's like if a woman is assaulted because she's wearing a miniskirt, you go, well, she shouldn't have been wearing a miniskirt. Why are you blaming her? It's the perpetrator that's the fault. And it's the same with the man who takes his life. Well, he just didn't talk. Well, in my experience, men not only talking, they're begging to be saved.
Yes.
But they're not, the cavalry is just not turning up.
Yeah.
And that's what needs to be addressed. It's not his fault for being poorly. It's their fault for not helping him get better.
Yeah.
We put them in what are basically modern day asylums. We give them injections and stop them from killing themselves for the fortnight that they're in there. Then they release them back into the public without the resources of getting better.
That's correct.
That's what needs to be changed.
I'll finish in a minute. We put together a petition to Parliament to do something with, proper reductions in it and proper things. And we got a smug reply based on, they got this strategy, pointing out to them there's no figures in your strategy, but that's how it was. So that's what really got me to do this book, because I decided to take the big paper that we'd taken as a proposal for an Act of Parliament and turn it into a trust book. And in fact, I'm now working with a team where we're doing one of these books for every one of the trusts in the UK. So we're thinking, well, if the government won't do it, let's do it trust by trust by trust by trust. And, it's upsetting that it's not taken more seriously, because that's the truth of the matter.
It is. There's not enough money put into, unfortunately, the NHS full stop at the moment, but particularly mental health. And the lack of resources means that we can't provide what is needed, but what we can do is get that information out there to the communities. It's the communities that can stop the suicide. A vast majority of suicides are not known to the services. So, it's getting that information out to the communities, which we do by promoting safety plans, appearing on lovely shows like this with the Right Honourable Kev and Lee, who have now got the King's Award.
Just picking up on your figure there, that is 20 to 23. It's a funny category, isn't it? But known by the services. So of the 100, it's normally about 20 are known. The reason they use the word known is that they're probably not patients, they're probably not even outpatients, but they've had a contact within the last 6-7 months. It is said that the 80 are unknown, and I don't believe that. I think in the 80s, people have gone to the doctors, they'd have antidepressants, they will have had various treatments. And that's why another thing David and I led on really was to get the GPs of the Black Country trained in suicide prevention. And it's a very detailed, highly technical course, really. And we've managed, of the 600 GPs, we've got 300 trained. But again, with what's been happening with the trust, that all just ground to a halt 2 years ago. We desperately need the other 300, don't we? Yeah.
I think it goes further than that, doesn't it? There's no, with training like that, there's no need. There's a need for that to be public wide. Because the doctors are only going to see you for a short amount of time on this when it's. Yeah. Actually, if you do the nurses, the doctors, the teachers in school,
that's why we have to be a part of the boxing curriculum. So your coaches are learning about mental health. And
I think that's true.
It's got to get out there. It's getting out there as far and wide as possible.
You've been a big advocate of that, haven't you? The primary,
the
primary stuff. Yeah,
getting into the primary care arena, but also into the community hubs, places like your gym. Ideal, but you're doing it for me. So
we were doing one of the talks, and Lee rightly said it. We were doing one of the talks to some brickies. We were on site, and they're saying, "Oh well, Dave in HR is a mental health first aider, and Rob the gaffer." And he went, "Well, what you should be doing is not having the guy in HR, have the guy on tools next to you, because he's more likely going to talk to me than he's talking to you, who's on HR." In our minds, you're thinking, if I tell him, he's going to find me.
And it's not just you probably won't see that bloke in HR unless he needs you. Whereas the blokes who's sitting next to you or working next to you every day, he sees you every single day.
You're normally worried if you get HR coming in.
Exactly. The boss coming down is a bit off-putting.
There's a really good free online training. 2.5 million people have watched it. It's 20 minutes. I can't recommend it enough. And it's just something you just said, Lee. There's 3 scenarios shown. The first one that's shown is on a building site. And the guy who's in crisis has, they go through a divorce, can't make the payments, what have you. And the guy in the canteen has sort of been through the same experience himself, but he's talking through, covers on things that you said, Kev, about seeing behind the mask and seeing, and it's very, very cleverly done. And they refreshed them this year. And I'll tell you why it's even better than the 2.5 million that went before. Before, they showed how not to do it and how to do it. Now, how confusing can that be? This one shows you exactly how to do it. And it's the Zero Suicide Alliance, very easy to find on Google. And you click and you can be straight in to 20-minute online training. And I've got several friends, particularly down in London, who feel they may have saved their life from what they learned from that video. But it's just something you said just struck me. This it's not HR, it's not because you can see in this video the chances of that guy going to the supervisor of the nil. But his colleague is just sort of tickling it out of him.
Well, not just it, it's like you're a old pal, you don't look yourself. And that's what it is. I'm all right. Go, no, come on, Bert. What's up? You and the missus having a row, and
exactly like that.
And that's what it is, isn't it?
That's what it is, and it's also I've mentioned this on podcasts before, but it's the ask twice, because I go, "Are you all right, Kev?"
I think it's sound, isn't it? I'm all right.
He asked me 3 times up the stairs.
I'm worried about I've got into his head now. But if I follow,
didn't look that bad. Don't answer.
No. I won't go there. But if I follow it up with, "Kev, are you really all right?" You might open up and say, "No, I've got a belly full of Easter eggs and I'm not right." But you open up. It gives that person a chance to open up.
When we were a bit like in the old days community, we had one of our good friends on, Dr. Lloyd. And when you go there and you go, "Who's your GP?" And you used to be Dr. Parnell. But Dr. Parnell was my GP, my dad's GP, and my granddad's GP. So it'd be one of them going like, "Oh no, are you all right? Your dad was a drinker, so was your granddad, or your dad had arthritis, or your dad, you knew the family.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, is who's your GP? I haven't got one. I just I get whoever
That's
I
right.
can.
Yeah.
But when you had that person of a medical person who knew
Yeah.
Nan had cancer or Granddad had Parkinson's, or
Yeah.
you knew the
You
family,
get,
you
yeah.
got into the crease of it, didn't you? And
yeah.
I think we've lost that. And
Yeah.
what we were saying about friends, like me and Lee, we've known each other forever. But
Yeah.
you'd say, are you all right? How's the baby? How's the wife? You have a port of call. It's not a stranger going, are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? Okay.
Yeah.
It's, well, I know you, I know your background.
Yeah.
What might be up? And
Yeah.
you know one another, don't you? And that's
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
where
I
the
think
relationship
what you
comes.
struck on earlier, which was the social
Yeah.
world we live in. And funny enough, when you watch this video, he strikes that because he does know things about the other guy. So it's not totally abstract from it. So it's very clever. And but as you say, trying to go back to us all living in the same streets and never moving, that's not there anymore. But and the phones get in the way and the TV gets in the way and everything else. But nonetheless, what's written in this book, and I'll send you a link that people
Brilliant.
might
We'll
want to
share it.
read it, is about trying to create a zero suicide society. And I'm serious. I think it can be done.
But of course, it can. Nelson Mandela said, poverty is a man-made problem. And it's the same with suicide. If we could have people there helping one another.
Yeah.
Instead of, once again, locking them up in the asylums and chaining them down and electric shock therapies and, just being there. Because obviously some things is medical. They've got a chemical imbalance. So they need to be medicated. And sometimes it's just, I'm in that much debt, I can't see a way out.
Yeah.
Or I'm pining for my loved one, or I've got severe grief over losing this. But that's when the talking, if it's not therapy, but the talking and listening and understanding really comes into it, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And also, people quite often get suicidal because they can't see any other way out. And that's them. But if they talk to someone, they can be surprised that there is another way out. And you've got to be that light for that person to show that actually there is, and it's happened to me. I've been suicidal, and I've had people talk to me, and the problems that I thought were insolvable got solved. And, so there is another way out. Now, I use creativity a lot, and one of the ways that I like to get ideas across is poetry, and I run an unspoken word poetry group, which is a play on spoken word, because the unspoken word is mental health. But I've just written a poem today, as usual. I've lots of preparation, so I wrote it just about an hour before I got here. And I've written this poem today based on a number that shocks me, and I don't like statistics. It drives me mad when I go into meetings and they're going statistics about these are the causes of suicide, etc. But this number wakes you up. The number is 17. And that number is 17 people in this country every day take their own lives. That's shocking. That's 17 too many. So I've written a poem called 17 based on that number. Just 17. 17 is a number I will never forget. 17 lives filled with regret. What is happening in this world full of tears? Nobody's listening. Nobody hears. 17 is etched upon my mind. 17 reasons to live and be kind. A cuppa is just a cuppa when it's not shared. From London to Calcutta, It shows that you're cared. Nobody's immune to the number 17. When inside a cocoon, your worries can't be seen. Reach out if you can. It's not the time to hide. You're no less a man if in others you confide. A hand not proffered can never be taken. So make sure it's offered for the lonely and forsaken. We are masters of disguise for what's going on inside. So look behind the eyes where the sorrow tries to hide. I'm okay is not okay when asked how you are. Are you really okay? Truly okay? Be brave and bear that scar. There is no shame in what's gone wrong, so don't self-blame where it doesn't belong. You are not alone. It's a matter of perception. That nobody cares is a misconception. Whatever your troubles, whatever your fears, it only doubles if you hide the tears. Trust me, I've been there myself. No mercy is bad for your health. Self-hate, a tool of sorrow. Hesitate for now and tomorrow. 17 lives daily are lost. 17 lives humanity's cost. 17 poor souls with pain deep inside. 17 dark holes they can no longer abide. Now's the time to make 17 none. So please make the time before they're all gone.
Very good.
Well done, Dave. Well,
yeah.
Paul. But if you think 17 people, and if, once again, is it 75% of those are men? You know what I mean? So, you know, it's
It's a problem with numbers as well, though, because as we've learned in the past, to get it has to be clear cut to be registered as a suicide.
It is. The 17 is actually a lot less than
You're
what
right.
it actually is.
You're right. The figures are getting different because of the different way of doing it.
And it's
Someone who accidentally overdosed, or
Also,
someone who
yeah.
accidentally drank themselves to
Yeah.
death, or
Or
something.
accidentally ran themselves off the road.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
stepped in front of a motor.
Yeah.
But putting it into focus on the Black Country, if you just work out the simple figures that I gave earlier, that's every 4 days, you know, somebody goes. And you're quite right. It could be 6. Oh, sorry, it could be 3. It could be more than 100. And I don't think they're doing it maliciously,
no, it's
but they are doing the adding up such that fewer will be covered. But I don't think there's any sort of
no. If I suppose when it comes to a coroner report, they have to go off the facts of there, and if you can't prove that person swerved
Yeah.
off the road on purpose, then
It's kind of
an
like
accident or-
beyond reasonable doubt.
Yeah,
type
that's
thing,
it.
isn't Yeah.
I met a paramedic from West Sussex, and he's set up a sort of master's course, really, bringing doctors in. He's